Hello and welcome everybody. I'm very happy and pleased to have you with us today in this first webinar that we'll be holding from Reload HR about a topic which is quite up to date, about a topic that lots of people have been talking about, lots of our clients recently have been approaching us about, transforming your HR towards an agile working model. How can you build an agile culture? How can you build HR processes upon the agile model? And why is it a necessity today? Just before we dive into our talk today, and before we dive into this topic, I would like to give a couple of words to introduce us who we are, Reload HR. Myself, Aladdin, so I'm a consultant at Reload HR. We are founded by and composed of experts with decades of experience and knowledge in HR, digital transformation, that's the keyword here. Our focus obviously is transforming HR in a very pragmatic way to a more digitalized and efficient function. We have a hands-on approach thanks to our technical know-how, delivering and leading multiple projects in HR tech rollouts, transformation with the top technologies out there, but also with process design and optimization within HR. And at the end, of course, something that we work closely with and hands-on with and on, let's say, is operating models. How can we reinvent operating model? How can we ensure service level and redesign service level and drive the change management programs necessary with it? I will be holding this webinar also with my colleague, Sonia Horton, who is with us today. Would you like to say something, Horton?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Aladdin. Hello, everybody. My name is Sonia Horton, and as Aladdin mentioned, we would be presenting you this topic in 3 mini series. So today you would be seeing our first series on the introduction to this topic on transforming your HR towards an agile function. And in the next 2 sessions, you will receive concrete tools and examples to guide you and your organization on this journey. The series will be published regularly by us, and we are very happy to have you here, and stay tuned for this session. Thank you.
Exactly. We're very happy and pleased to start this webinar series. It is a first for us, but there is a need since lots of our clients are approaching us with many questions. And I think there is no better way than holding this panel and offering the possibility for you guys to reach back to us to ask about specific areas or questions that we can help you with today. Moving over, let's say, or on with our subject today, and what are we going to cover within this series? Just a disclaimer, obviously today we'll just scratch the surface. Today we'll talk about the natural evolution of HR and why today is essential for us to start considering or start putting the basis for building an agile function. And in the future, in the next 2 episodes, exactly like Sonia have mentioned, we'll make a deep dive on 2 main vectors that I will explain also later on, which are the projects of HR and how can we or how should we drive them in an agile way, and also the target operating model. How can I ensure service levels in an agile way or agile service levels to make sure that my projects run smoothly and we continue in the future building an agile culture and function for the HR specifically. Diving a bit deeper and starting with the first element, the natural evolution of HR. Well, I think it goes without saying that in the last decades, and it's quite clear that thanks to many technological advancement tools, we've seen more and more the HR function moving from the classic admin utility function. So HR was perceived as a generalist, a center for specific areas, admin areas, and moving towards a more strategic function. And we've seen multiple companies in multiple locations within this let's say map here, roadmap. Some moved ahead towards the functional expertise, some have built center of excellence, and this is more a functional let's say position that HR have held in the past, being the center for all topics and knowledge within, for example, recruitment, payroll, etc. And then as the technology has advanced, as the tools became more modern, as we have more automatization for multiple admin tasks, we have seen HR getting closer to the strategic position, HR being considered as a business partner, being consulted for strategic decisions in the company, not just because there is this space and the possibility to do this, but because there is more and more consideration for the role that HR is playing in modern companies today. And of course, the future would be, and lots of companies are already there, by project-driven HR. That means there are certain areas where HR is driving in a project way from a strategic perspective, since that the admin areas or the transactional work that HR used to have before is being outsourced in some occasions, or to use some technological areas or technological tools to do it. So we have more space and possibility and capacity to think further and continue supporting strategically our companies. On the other hand, our businesses are exposed to massive innovation that we can see. We've seen recently in the last months or the last year, this pandemic that have touched all of the aspects of our business. We see lots of fluctuations. We see lots of market trends changing, and what's also called a very nice word, the VUCA, which is a market or environment which is described being very volatile, very uncertain, very unstable, let's say, and complex, that companies need to operate in. That means decisions are not made top to bottom. Decisions are made upon real impact or real fluctuations and changes in the market. And company has to be adapting fast and being very forward thinking, let's say, to predict, for example, a talent shortage in this area, or for example, a different whole location shutdown in another. And all of this requires that HR has to grow hand in hand with this trend to move toward an agile function at the business, from IT to finance. Also, HR should not be at the end trail, let's say, or the end wagon, but more being the function that will lead the way, that will pave the way and set the model for the whole company to work in an agile way and to embed the agile function in its culture and in its daily activities, let's say. Now we will dive a bit towards the journey and what do we consider the vectors, or how do we see our journey being driven to transform HR into an agile function. And that's obviously made just to ensure a very smooth transition.
Yes, and Aldin, taking a step back, when I look at the projects that you mentioned previously, for each project, we would need, or a company would need to have a vision and kind of a roadmap on one hand, and on the other hand, would need to understand what is the starting point, where do I fit in myself as the organization onto this roadmap. Can you tell us more about this?
Exactly. That's really the topic, or the content of the next slide, or what is the vision, what do we have as a vision to transform your agile HR, or transforming your HR towards an agile function. Obviously, the landscape is different. You, the audience, and lots of companies are sitting in different steps in the landscape. We have HR 1.0, the basis, where, as I mentioned earlier, HR has just an exclusive administrative focus. That's the classic HR. And then we have the emergence of the shared services, right? The centers, the shared service centers, with a more efficient way of centralized administrative work. What's more interesting, that today's landscape, most of the companies are sitting here in 2.0. So we have tailored HR projects. We see initiatives, specific topics, specific programs being driven in a project way. We drive the talent shortage topic of recruitment in this area, or learning development program in that area, in a project way. And this is still limited to very specific areas of work. The next way to do it, for example, is to take it a step further and continue driving the same topics always all across the organization, constantly in a project way. So if you had an initiative, for example, to create a chatbot to answer your employees' request for payroll, and you did it just as a tailored project, if it works for you, the next step would be to constantly drive all the topics about inquiries or employees' contacts with HR department via HR chatbots, and driving this in a constant project. And then the next, or the final evolution, the natural evolution, our vision is to continue driving all of the areas of HR, that's from payroll to recruitment or learning and development, in a project way, constantly driving that in a project way. So let's say the vector or the heart of this transformation is really to drive your transformation via projects, to drive them starting by tailored areas, either geographically speaking or topic based, and then constantly driving them in a project way, and then continue in the future to a complete agile HR function. Of course, this is the future of HR. This is our vision for the future of HR. Many companies already started this journey. Many companies are sitting somewhere in between these two. But at the end of the day, our main advantage is that you will have a deep HR data knowledge analytics, which will pave the way for future technologies, big data, and etc. And then you will have a very consultative customer-centric focus HR function, which is sitting there with the main or sole purpose of being customer orienting and solving your true issues and problems. So at the end of the day, one of our first services is really to identify where do you sit, where would you sit, and it's the first exercise is really to nail down where are you in this spectrum here, and really understand where should be the next step, which areas we have to go ahead with. Moving over to the next slide, and I think this is quite interesting, and this is a small intro to the next two episodes, since our episode today is coming to an end. How are we driving this transformation? I already mentioned the projects. Yes, projects are the heart of this transformation, but it's not enough. We have seen from a hands-on perspective that we could implement a digital transformation, we can implement this or that software or this or that system or solution to a company in an agile way. But at the end of the day, there is a lack of will, there is a lack of a change culture that will hinder this project. That said, we need to ensure something bigger. The bigger picture or the bigger vector would be the target operating model. Now, I think we are clear on what are agile projects in HR, but let me dive deeper to what does it mean, a target operating model in HR? Well, at the end of the day, it is just summarized in the service levels. How can your HR, via which services, via which functions, can it orchestrate its work? Can it ensure the highest impact and value to the business? So the service levels, the different service levels that HR can provide to your companies locally or globally, let's say, this is what should pave the way to drive further these gears. And I like this illustration over here, which we have two gears, right? They are geared into each other. And as you see, the agile projects, they are moving ahead, they will be moving the target operating model, but that's not enough. You have to think 10 steps ahead, and you have already to think about starting to build a very efficient and stable target operating model to be the vector for this growth. So at the end of the day, they should be growing hand in hand. The heart of our transformation is indeed the projects. We start locally, we start in a very limited way, and then the vector for its growth would be really the target operating model. But then you might ask yourself, we talk about Agile. Is Agile really the artifacts of Agile? Is it really the sprints of 14 days? Is it really the retrospective meetings? Is it really committing to a backlog? We don't see that like that. At the end of the day, Agile is really a set of values. It's really the way how you should reinvent your function, the way you should interact, and you should put the customer, in our case, it's our stakeholders within the company for HR, at the center of your solutioning process, and then at the center of your testing and delivery process. So at the end of the day, how can I reflect these values on my target operating model? How can I reflect these values on my projects? This would be really the core of our next episode, where we'll be diving deeper into these two topics and how can we really drive this transformation thanks to the values. By this, we are ending our short meeting today. I hope this was a good brain food for you. We are very open to all of your feedback and questions. If you would like us to change the content a bit or dive in a specific area more than other for the next episodes, we are very open on other topics you're interested in. And again, as we mentioned, we'll be holding a second and third episode to dive deeper into these two vectors here. I leave it to you for the closing words, Sonia.
Thank you, Aladdin. No more comments to add from my side. Just stay tuned. We are looking forward to you and joining us into the next sessions. And have a nice rest of the day. Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice rest of the week as well. Ciao.